Hello, everyone. It looks like I've only got Steve here. Hi, Steve. We're going to wait and see if a couple of more attendees trickle in. But today we're going to be going over marketing insights with Performance Tracker X. So for any user who might be watching this live or recorded, if you are a current Performance Tracker X client, that's fantastic. You guys can start utilizing these resources right away. If you're not a current client, then and you're interested in learning more about Performance Tracker X, you can reach out to me or Vince. He's on the call here as well. He's our senior business consultant at Johnson Consulting Group, and he has a wealth of knowledge as well around Performance Tracker X. So whichever one of us you want to contact, we will have our contact information displayed here at the end of the call. Today's agenda of what we're going to go over. So Vince is my special guest today. We are going to have him start us off, and he's really going to dive in deep to what the business consulting team uses Performance Tracker X for in terms of marketing, and what funeral owners should be paying attention to, and why is that data useful to them. And then once he is completed with his section, I will go over a new feature release with Performance Tracker X. So we have a email push report that is going to be starting here in October, and it's going to deliver to all users that are opted in to receive it monthly. And essentially, it's just a overview of your survey data from the month prior and then the year to date. So this was a feature that was available in our enterprise system way back when. And this is something that we have redesigned and brought to fruition here with our Medallia and our single sign-on technology that we use. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off over to Vince, and he's going to get started for you guys.
Thanks, Taylor, and hello, everyone. Good to be with you. We are talking about an interesting topic today, because when we think about the customer experience feedback we get with Performance Tracker, the first thought on how to use it is often to better our customer service, better our team's skill sets, and just really upskill the entire organization. So what we're talking about today is a little bit of an ancillary use of Performance Tracker, but it's a very powerful one, because there's an old adage about marketing dollars spent, and knowing that a certain percentage of them are wasted, you just don't quite know what percent or what they're wasted on. It's very hard to measure the channels of marketing and the effectiveness of those channels. But with a tool like Performance Tracker, we're able to clarify that just a bit. So I'm going to share that with you. Probably the most obvious and most impactful area to utilize Performance Tracker data is that first point on the screen. Funeral directors, I myself am one. I know many, I work with many. Funeral directors are not always the best at promoting ourselves. We do a fantastic job serving the needs of the families in our community. They tell us we're doing an amazing job. And with Performance Tracker, the survey program, they are giving us or granting us permission to use some of their feedback in testimonials. And so one of the lowest hanging fruits on the tree for utilizing Performance Tracker in marketing is to be using the feedback for testimonials, using those comments and the themes from the feedback that you're getting. And obviously, there's a couple of ways to do this. I work with firms that use the feedback on a website banner. Maybe they have a page of testimonials on their website. They may have collateral materials. Think about your pre-planning guides and having comments that are really directed at the folks who had pre-planned and offered feedback. I look at a lot of survey feedback with the clients that I'm working with, and it's quite easy to filter out the pre-funded cases, for example, and look at the feedback. And generally speaking, you're going to see some comments about how positive an experience it was because of the fact that they pre-planned. So that can be a very good use of the feedback for marketing purposes. You think about frequently asked question brochures, or just any other sort of collateral materials that are around your funeral home or cemetery, or anything that might be used at a lunch and learn or a seminar. Think about what it's like in the shoes of those prospective customers of yours, and how a testimonial, some of the great feedback you're getting, could be used as a testimonial in those materials. And again, there are ways to filter the responses in Performance Tracker. So if you are looking for those pre-funded clients, if you're looking for specifically cremation feedback, a great question on the survey is what was most meaningful to you and your family, and we can isolate the responses to those questions, and you can use those for testimonials as we've discussed. We do need to be careful though. The checkbox that's on the survey is an opt-out. So the assumption is that families are granting you permission by filling out the survey. If you see that checkbox checked, however, you should not use the whatever comments are left by that family. So keep that in mind as you try to use the feedback for testimonials. Another obvious and powerful reason or a way to use the CX feedback for marketing is the Google Promote feature. I think most of you who are on the call are aware of the fact that you can invite the folks who are taking the survey to leave a Google review. As you can see, that bullet point, 7% of funeral home at-need families first learn about the firm through online search. This has ebbed and flowed a little bit. It was higher, I think, during the pandemic, but that's still a very significant percentage. And this is across all Performance Tracker clients. So we're looking at funeral homes across North America. So we've talked about the importance of having an online reputation, the power of that. So ensure that feature is enabled, and be inviting families to leave an online review. That I know many of you are experts at that. We've gained a lot of traction with many of our clients in recent years, but it really is a continued area of focus. When we get into some of the more intricate ways to use the data that comes out of Performance Tracker, one of the great ways to try to measure the effectiveness of your marketing channels is to be analyzing the question or the answers to the question, how did you first learn about our company? That's one of the questions towards the end of the survey. Many of you are familiar with that. And what we can do is associate the contract information, essentially the average sale or contract value information for those exact cases along with the responses. So you can see in this example, of the folks who responded, we had about 590 responses, and 39 of them indicated that they first learned about this company through an organization. And that's accounted for about $166,000 of revenue. Now, this is not a perfect sample. You can see down at the bottom, this is still an excellent response rate, about 47%. So about 1 in 2 families are answering the survey. And so another great reason to bolster your response rate is to be able to use this data in more meaningful ways. So since we have a good response rate, we can look at the different types of channels that families might hear about your funeral home and cemetery, and measure the dollars that are associated with those respondents, those folks who are answering the survey. An interesting note here also is to understand not just the aggregate amount of revenue that's associated with these channels, but also the average contract. This is something I've looked at for multiple clients, and it may come as no surprise that often the Google and online search and social media channels produce lower average sale contracts than recommendations from people and organizations. And that's true in this case as well. Intuitively, we sort of know if an organization is referring, often those organizations are churches, which typically have services and ceremonies. But also we do see hospice referrals as well. So it's a mixed bag, so to speak. But to have a little bit better understanding of this for your business is very helpful. Now, you can look at this data a couple different ways. If, for example, this particular firm was not spending anything on TV and radio, then we would, be quite obvious that we wouldn't expect much there. However, if they were spending quite a bit, it may be cause and not 100% with 100% certainty, but it might be cause to reevaluate what we're doing. And we may also need to look at a longer window of time. TV and radio types of advertising that may produce calls or responses to the survey in the years to come. So, having year-over-year data in this category is very important, and being able to look back every year or thereabouts and understand the marketing cost for these types of channels, and then take a look at the cost per call, because you can get a sense of how many of these families are choosing your location for these reasons. The other thing I was going to mention on this topic is that sometimes the data here may challenge us to think about what we're not doing that we could be doing. I know some firms don't do anything, for example, on social media. And so obviously we would expect to see very little dollars come through that channel. But it might be something that the organization needs to wrestle with as seeing a potential opportunity there. So this is an area in operating a funeral home business that is one that is in flux. It's changing and continues to change. So we need to have every sort of dial that we can of measurement, and using Performance Tracker in this way helps us better understand not just the ROI on what we're doing, but also gives us a little bit more insight into the type of calls and the dollars that are associated with each one of these marketing channels. You can go ahead on the next slide there. Thanks, Taylor. So there are a couple of questions towards the end of the survey that you're familiar with that relate to marketing. One that we just looked at: how did you first hear about the funeral home? That's very important for just top of mind marketing. The other that helps us better understand our client family is the primary reason question. What were the drivers of the decision to use the funeral home? We may have a family that heard of us through prior experience, or learned about us through referral or recommendation from an organization or a person, but they chose us because of our facilities, or our reputation, or for any of the other reasons you see listed here. So they're obviously related questions. Our aim is always to have the person taking the survey understand the difference between the two, and sometimes that may or may not be the case. But the idea is to really better understand our consumer. And that's important as the consumer in your markets continues to change. What really are the driving forces for the decision to use your firm? And I've talked about it in other presentations I've done, that even on the first learn question we looked at on the last slide, you look at that, you look at this information. Overwhelmingly, we know that prior experiences play a huge role, not just through the families that will use us again, but in the idea of the brand promoters that are out in the community, the people that goodwill has been built with through excellent service, and their likelihood to recommend that really materializes in recommendations. You can see for this business, it's a notable size of the pie that are coming highly recommended from people or organizations. So when we think about marketing and, again, the spend for different channels of marketing, you look at your social media spend, your digital, other digital or print spend. We also need to think about how we're investing in customer service training, because customer service and the experience of our customers really is the biggest driver of future growth. And we see that in this type of data. I think a couple notes here, similarly to the last slide, it to me is very important to understand the demographics of the markets that we're serving. Oftentimes we have assumptions on the price sensitivity, so to speak, and the driving force of price for the reason to choose the funeral home. In this case, you can see it's fairly negligible, and even the average sale is a bit higher than the overall. So what I often see is that yes, people are attentive to price, but they're also checking other boxes to this question. So that's another layer of this, is that you'll notice that the sum of all these rows actually exceeds the total. And that's because people who are taking the survey can select multiple reasons. That's true for this question and the previous question. So we do have to sort of sift through this to better understand it, but it does provide that level of understanding. Again, I often look at how many families are choosing the answer price to this question, and then how many are choosing price and price alone, meaning they don't check any other box. And that's also rather insightful for many firms to better understand. The other thing here is to note the pre-planned funeral arrangements. That's a very, very important one, especially as firms continue to experience shifts in case mix away from burial and toward cremation. If we can have an effective pre-need program, especially for our burial families through an aftercare program, we can better solidify that call mix. And you can see it sometimes in the results. In this case, the average sale for pre-planned funeral arrangements significantly higher than the overall average sale as well. So little insights like that, again, help us better understand our consumer and help us also to tailor our marketing efforts. On the next slide, we'll also see I would say one of the easier ways to implement the data that you're receiving. So if I were to rank what I've shared with you so far in terms of ease of implementation or ease of being able to sort of do it yourself, the first slide, that to me is the low-hanging fruit, testimonials and Google reviews. And Performance Tracker is set up to help you do that. The second thing that I think is in the order of ease of implementation is this, and that is looking at the organizations who are referring families to you and also understanding the satisfaction that's associated with those families, quite obviously, but also the contract value that may be associated with those types of referrals. As we see often, the referral demographic, the families that are referred by organizations, generally speaking, do have higher contract values than the folks who are finding your firm through online search and other digital ways. That's not to say don't spend in those areas. However, we can't neglect the relationships we have with centers of influence in our communities. These are very powerful and sometimes very time intensive. You think about your marketing and promotional efforts, it's often easier to stroke a check than to donate 4 or 5 hours to some type of activity on a weekend. However, we have to also think about what's effective for growth in the business. And I work with clients and really try to focus on having a broad approach, not just the social media, not just the donations, but trying to get involved, especially understanding those true centers of influence in our communities. And the best place to find that is in the survey results. You can go and pull an export, you can sort by this question, and you can look up all the names as we see here. This was from Jake's funeral home, Jake Johnson's funeral home. And clearly, some of these are going to be well known. I mean, most of them will be well known by your organization. Sometimes, though, it causes a little bit of reflection because we may expect to see names on this list that we don't. And so there the question becomes, what were we doing years ago that we're not doing currently? And is there anything that we need to restart or implement to better strengthen these types of relationships? So again, this is I think a very manageable way to measure the organizations you get from referrals. The same is true also for individuals. The method for doing this is the same for referring individuals. You can pull an export and filter by individual. And you can also do this type of thing for other reasons that families are choosing you, or other reasons that families hear about you. So I know there's always that other category, and that's sort of a grab bag. What I typically find is that families maybe aren't reading the survey closely enough, and many of the other categories are in fact referrals, prior service, recommendations, and so forth. So there's a lot of power in this. As I said at the outset, we think about the survey program as being a tool to improve our customer service, to manage the experiences of our families, and ensure that if there are any issues or challenges, that we follow up in a timely fashion. But we don't always think about Performance Tracker and the survey program as being a powerful tool for honing our marketing efforts. And hopefully in the brief slides that I've shared with you today, it's helped better understand how you can use this tool to be a little bit more effective in how you run your advertising and promotional plan for next year.
Thank you so much, Vince. I do want to just point out here too, the importance of diving into your survey data, and that's what this is all about, and what Vince has really highlighted throughout his presentation is just it's not enough to just look at your scores and see like, hey, we got this many leads back, we got this many great surveys back. It's really actionable data, but you do have to take action on it. So if anyone who is a current user of Performance Tracker is not currently working with our business consulting team, you can absolutely start working with Vince and his team, or you can reach out to me and I can definitely help you gather the data and look at the data a little bit more. Obviously, our consulting team is the expert when it comes to the profession as a whole. But if you just need help, dividing out your data and sorting some of those other categories, like Vince was saying, where people just kind of drop anything, everything in those boxes, just let me know and I can definitely help you guys sort through that. I created just a little summation at a very high level of the importance of those 2 marketing questions in the survey. So I'm just going to leave this in here for you guys to reference, because there's nothing here that Vince didn't already go over. So just know that, if you ever wonder, like, hey, is the survey too long? Do we not need those marketing questions anymore? You do. Trust me, you want those marketing questions, because even though previously served and highly recommended by are, the most common across the board, especially if you have cremation, online reviews is going way up in the cremation category for how families are hearing about and why families are choosing us. So just keep that in mind. Just a little tidbit here for the business consulting team here at Johnson Consulting Group. They offer so many things that you guys can do, even if you're not working with them in an ongoing engagement process. So, our incentive compensation plans, for example, that's going to be a quarterly basis that the business consultant is going to meet with you. But even if you have some leaders on your team that would benefit from our leadership and management course, this is an example of one of the things that are offered. We have one coming up here in October. They also offer on-site CX workshops, business assessments. There's so many different services that they can work with you guys on. So just keep that in mind as you're using Performance Tracker, and just know that the 2 connect really well together. So if you're ever looking for more in that area, please reach out to us and we can help you out. Now, while we've got a few minutes left here, I do want to point out a new feature that we have coming out. And ironically enough, this is kind of the opposite of what we are just talking about in terms of diving deep into the data. This is going to give you guys a really nice overview of your survey data coming in on a monthly basis. You will receive an email, and I'm going to show you an example of that right now. Let me get that pulled up. So this is, again, for Jake Johnson's funeral home here in Arizona. So it's just an example of the actual report here. And you can see we have the location name included, the username included. So no matter what user role you are, an executive, location manager, or a ranger, you can opt in to receive this report and receive a version of it that fits your user role access level. And you can see this is for August 2025, the performance summary. Just a little note here, and really the importance of what Vince was saying too is, there's a much more comprehensive overview of your data, and you can dive a lot deeper and get more granular with it if you log into your dashboard, which you can absolutely do through here as well. But just looking at overall scores for the month, it's really helpful, especially for those executives, which I know we have a few on this call, who just need to see, like, hey, how many surveys were received, what was sent, what's our net promoter score for August, all these things. So we're going to dive into the month of August for survey stats. Now, something that I love about this report is our little directional arrows here show from the month prior of it. Hey, is this higher or lower than the month prior? And that's just something that you guys should be paying attention to, even when you're in your dashboard, right? Is comparing month over month or year over year for some of our clients that have been here for many years, and noting the differences not only in performance scores, but also in your response rates, in your email and mobile number collection, because that's ultimately going to affect your response rate overall. So this email really puts that information right in front of your face, which is just awesome. Now, year to date is here as well. So year to date is obviously what it says. It's January through the end of August, since this is the August email. Now, it is important to note this August email will be received in September, right? Because we have to have the entire month of August closed out in order to receive this email. This number of surveys received is based on the response date. So that's how we know that it won't adjust for August or the year to date through August, because it is based on response date, not the contract date. So even if, more cases, more survey responses come in from cases that happened in August, those would be included in a later a report based on when they responded to the survey, if that makes sense. And feel free to ask questions if it doesn't, because I'm going through this a little fast here. And then the alert stats. So, how many perfect scores you received, negative scores. We've got our smiley faces, the coveted smiley faces that everyone loves. And then our lead alerts as well. So you can see for the month of August, they received 0 lead alerts, but if they had received alerts, it would break it out based on what was selected in the lead alert area. So this is super useful for your pre-need team to see. Let's say you have a larger organization and you have a leader of a pre-need team for sales, and they receive this every month. They can just easily glance down and make sure that all of those pre-need alerts were divided out amongst the team to contact families for. And then year-to-date results, the exact same. So that was just for the month of August, and this brings in the full year. So lead alerts, they've received 5 lead alerts for the year. And you can see that 2 were pre-need and 1 was other, and 2 were grief support. You may also want to point out too that might not be 5 cases, because the lead alert section in the survey is multi-select. So if one family wants to know everything, that's possible, and they want to know more, that is still, just one family that needs to be contacted for a lead. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through this data as well. And that's the conclusion of that email. So that is available starting in October. We are beta testing right now. If you're interested in being a part of our beta group. I mean, we have 1 week until October, so pretty much everyone's going to be receiving this report within the next couple of weeks here. But reach out to me if you have any questions on it. I do want to go over very briefly how you can opt in to receive this report. So that's what I've got here on my slide. So in your account, you all know that ever since we did our update with our single sign-on, there are a couple of more tabs at the top of your page. So regardless if you're, whatever your user role is, you do have access to this My Account Details tab. You might need to select the little drop-down arrow in your dashboard to get to that area. But then if you go ahead and click into your Global Account Management area, you will be brought to a page that has My Profile as one of the options. Now, I mean, if you're a ranger, it's going to be My Profile and Contact J3 Tech Solutions. But if you're an executive, you've got several buttons here that you can select. So just click into My Profile, and then you're going to see when you click into your profile that you have the ability to opt in to that survey detail report under your communication preferences. So it's going to be just below your alert preferences in your account, and then you can go ahead and select that box. Or you guys can just reach out to me at support@j3techsolutions.com, and either myself or a member of our team will be able to help you get opted into that. We can go ahead and manually do it for you if you're uncomfortable or not as familiar with the single sign-on yet. Whatever is best for you, and we can make sure that you guys are getting that detail report. And I mean, if you're an executive and you just want to say, hey Taylor, opt my entire team into receiving this, this is awesome, I can do that too. So just let me know. And as always, I'm going to go ahead and conclude our session today with just a reminder of how you can reach out to us if you need any support. We have our email, support@j3techsolutions.com, or you can always submit a support ticket in your dashboard. Either way, we will be able to get back to you as soon as possible if you contact this email address versus just emailing me individually, or maybe Allison individually, maybe someone's out of the office or something. This way everyone gets eyes on your support ticket. So I am going to go ahead and let you guys go because we are a couple of minutes over time. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to hang out. I'm more than happy to address as well. But thank you so much, Vince, for joining me today and for taking the time to really dive into this subject matter with all of our attendees. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I hope you all have a great afternoon, and we hope to hear from you soon.